So now we bring in our expert on all things college basketball, Chip Patterson. And Chip, I want to start with Princeton, the way that they were able to basically shock the world, 2 big wins, an upset. How do you think they're playing, and how have they been able to keep it going?
A couple of things have been going really well for Princeton, and the thing that's incredible is that beating Missouri, the 7th seed in the region, was actually a more impressive performance to me than taking down the number 2 seed in Arizona. This is a Princeton team that all year has really relied on being great at crashing the offensive glass, and then against Missouri, the three-pointers were falling in a big, big way. The Tigers had no answer for it, and how stunned were all of us to see an Ivy League team be able to just make it rain on a couple of power conference opponents. And so the thing that you're encouraged about for Princeton is the fact that they've won a little bit more of a low-scoring grinder against Arizona, and then they've won a more up-tempo track meet style game at Missouri, aka they can win either way. Now, spinning this ahead to the matchup against Creighton, you're going to point out the size going up against 7'1" big man Ryan Kalkbrenner, but they just took down Arizona, which has 2 twin towers in Azuolas Tubelis and Omar Ballo. And oh, by the way, that Arizona team beat this Creighton team earlier this season. But Creighton was absolutely stellar against Baylor, and this is where I'm going to go back to the same thought of three-point shooting, because Ryan Nembhard was on fire. This whole this whole Creighton team really put Baylor out of the tournament with their shooting from behind the arc. What Princeton needs to do is be able to chase Creighton off the three-point line, make sure they don't give up those easy looks, and turn this into a little bit more of a grind. That'll give themselves a chance. Spinning it forward, you look at Alabama or San Diego State, clearly a more favorable matchup for the Tigers. But remember that this one right here against Creighton, there is a formula for success for Princeton to continue marching onto the Elite Eight.
So if they keep on marching, when you look at the Ivy League, no team in the Ivy League has gone further than Penn did when they made it to the Final Four back in 1979. So they have that to look forward to. One other thing we have to look forward to is of all the teams left in the 16-team field, which one is the one that you are watching the most?
It's the Arkansas Razorbacks. Absolutely fascinating. I think that this Sweet 16 matchup between Arkansas and UConn is a matchup of teams that could win the national championship. But there's also a floor that goes on the other side of that ceiling, which is that Arkansas maybe loses in the Sweet 16 by double digits. Ricky Council has had a fantastic tournament so far. Devo Davis, just the hustle and the effort that was required to snatch this game right out from under Kansas in the second round. Eric Musselman, who's taken Arkansas to Elite Eights in back-to-back years, he really has an identity that works for March. It is with the physicality, it's with the length, it's playing with a lot of energy and a lot of confidence. And I start to think about the way that he's positioned this Arkansas team, because I think that they are good enough that they could prevent a 1-seed Alabama from winning the national championship or a 1-seed Houston from winning the national championship, the same way that they just bounced 1-seed Kansas from the NCAA tournament as the Jayhawks were looking to defend their national championship. Now, here's the X factor and the reason why Arkansas is my team to watch. Nick Smith, who missed a lot of the season due to injury, was the #1 player in the recruiting class coming into this season. He was one of the top freshmen, and he is expected to be a top pick in the NBA draft. He's been a non-factor, Zach. 6 points in 28 minutes in the first round, less than 20 minutes in the second round with 0 points. The projections are because of the raw talent, and when Nick Smith returned to the lineup, this Arkansas offense took a jump. But Arkansas has reached these incredible tournament heights in this tournament without him even being a factor. So if you want to look at Arkansas, we praise them for the offensive rebounding. We praise them for the great defense and the stops that they've made so far against Illinois and Kansas. But recognize that there is a player who has not been a part of this success, that if the green light comes on, if he is able to get out there and start filling it up, if Nick Smith catches fire in the second weekend, then Arkansas could be on its way to the Final Four.
Yeah, one thing before they take on UConn, though, in the Sweet 16 is the last time the Huskies made to the Sweet 16, the past 2 times they ended up going on to win the national championship. So now let's kind of do a reset, if you will, right now. Let's assume that everyone's bracket out there is busted, and you get a second chance to do it all over again. Walk us through your picks. Let's start in the South region, already advancing all the teams that you picked to win the Elite Eight.
All right, we're going to start Alabama over San Diego State. Creighton takes care of Princeton, and then I will be advancing Alabama, though that is a terrific matchup there in the South Regional Final. I do think that Kansas State and Michigan State, the winner there is going to be likely the winner in Madison Square Garden. Kansas State, Marquise Noel playing back in New York City is such a fantastic storyline. I think the Wildcats have more offensive firepower than the Vols will be able to match. Kansas State moves on to the Final Four out of the East. Then we go on to the Midwest. Oh, baby, you know I am too tempted to get Houston and Texas going head-to-head with the opportunity to go play in Houston. And that's where I think that the Longhorns, led by Marcus Carr, led by a little bit deeper of a lineup, Rodney Terry takes Texas to Houston for the Final Four. And then finally, a UCLA over UConn down there in the West. I know what you're saying, 2011, 2014, but Jaime Jaquez has been on one right now. I love the way that UCLA is playing. Finally, we go Alabama over Kansas State. I think that that's where Kansas State just doesn't have anybody that can go toe-to-toe with Brandon Miller. I go Texas over UCLA. Again, this is where I come down to depth and your high-end ceiling. And how about this football matchup for a college basketball national championship? We go Alabama over Texas like it's an old BCS national championship game.
That Final Four looking kind of like mine on my bracket. 3 of the 4 teams that I have out there in my bracket's doing pretty good right now. I just got to throw that out there.
Congrats.
Chip Patterson, thank you very much for the time. Make sure you go ahead and download, like we've mentioned already, that March Madness Live app. Stream every single game from your phone, tablet, computer, or your favorite streaming device to be able to see how your bracket's doing compared to mine. Just scan that QR code there on the left.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.